Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Dentistry Beyond the Numbers. I am flattered beyond how many people have sent me messages or seen me or called me and said that they really appreciate the knowledge and the interviews and the discussions we're having at Dentistry Beyond the Numbers. Today's no exception. Today is a phenomenal episode. It's going to dive into a young dentist's, but this particular young dentist who has built just a phenomenal group of practices at a very early age. I don't want to steal any of the thunder, but I'm going to tell you this doctor brought in clear aligners to his practice 7-8 years ago, just out of school. Now it's a huge source of revenue. It's easy, staff acceptance, patients agree, and we're going to find out why. One of the reasons why is this practice likes to use a product that gives him orthodontic consultation and then being guided by an orthodontist throughout the entire case. So they could send in cases and get ideas, and then the company, OrthoBrain, could say, no, we don't advise this. You don't pay anything until you accept the case. I say that because how much knowledge you can grow out and know from a consult. But what I really like about this particular clear aligner company is that they send you a disc, and it's done by an orthodontist. And the orthodontist, I've seen it many, many times, and in a lot of cases. But if you sit up on, the orthodontist there is telling you the malocclusion, what we're seeking, excursives, laterals, protrusive. What they're showing you is a continuing education course right in that one patient's treatment plan. And then they're going to show you where the brackets go and why. I think it's an amazing product. I think it's, ahead of its years in the education component, because I think these should be, dare I say, I have it on the idea. I think there should be some built-in CE. Think about it. You're learning every time you open up a box. Kind of wild. But today we have an amazing doctor, Dr. Sam Glick. He's very exciting doc. He's built a great business, a multi-practice group, and he's only 34 years old, had great guidance from his father, but we're going to talk about that. So here we go. Now I'm going to introduce Dr. Sam Glick.
It's so happy to have you here. Yeah, pleasure to be here, Mark. I'm honored and humbled to be on the podcast.
So, I asked around when I gravitated to understanding the knowledge that we can gain from a product like OrthoBrain. I really wanted to understand who's doing this, who gravitated to it. When I was doing Snap-on, there were early adapters, people that would just jump into it, and then there were slow risers. You're obviously an early adapter. Before further ado, tell us about yourself. Yeah, please.
Absolutely. Well, I'm married and a father of 2 beautiful kids.
Great way to start.
Living in the Cleveland area, and I opened Cleveland Smile Center as the name of my private practice. And we've since, over the last 8 years, grown to 4 locations around the Cleveland suburbs. So I'm keeping very busy with that, managing the family, managing the practices. And like you said, I'm definitely the type of person that is all or nothing, and I love to dive headfirst into anything that we take on. And as it relates to this conversation today, definitely with my clear aligner implementation into my practices among my associates who work for me and with me, as well as myself, I just cannot say enough about implementing clear aligners and ortho into the.
And then just first of all, a Louisville graduate. Looked you up, well-trained, got a lot of clinical experience, really great. And I asked him, I got to say this because I was a little taken aback. I looked at his website, 2 good-looking guys, a lot of docs, and I said, oh, is that your brother? And he goes, no, that's my father. And I said, wow, you guys must be doing something right in the Cleveland Institute of Smiles. But tell me this, when you have associates, I'm just curious before we dive in, most of the associates either your age or older. Do you find a lot of the older associates are not doing the clear aligners, are not gravitating? Are they just restorative, or are you like me looking for those type of people?
It's interesting. Me personally, I have mostly younger associates now. But what I find is that the younger the dentist, the more willing they are to try and dip their toes in the water, if you will, with the clear aligners, whereas an older associate might be more hesitant because they haven't been doing it for longer. So they're more comfortable with what they're doing. They don't necessarily want to rock their boat, so to speak. Whereas a younger associate just doesn't know what they don't know and they can't get in their own way, if you will. And it helps now.
Yeah, absolutely. Being in dentistry for 30 years, I could tell you that I'm not saying that braggadociously. I wish I was 34 sometime. Well, I like where I'm at. But, if I would say that, I remember when veneers became popular and some people were scared. It won't bond. It'll cause sensitivity. It'll chip. It'll break into list. Then I remember when implants came out and you have to put them on antibiotics for 3 days and you have to jump them around the table and dance the hora. All this crap that they had to do before they got an implant. Today, we have people like yourself, doctors like you and so many others that understand the concept of being a super generalist, of being somebody that understands the mouth, because that makes it a lot easier to jump. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And being a super GP, so to speak, super generalist, you have the line that dentistry begets more dentistry, which is a great one. And when I do lecturing periodically for OrthoBrain, I'll explain to dentists, what's in your toolbox, what can you add? Because when it's just ortho, that's great. And you can move teeth into the right position and patients will be happy. But they get even happier when you can offer an amazing amount of additional services along with ortho. It's such a natural conversation that you can start, where whether it's whitening, whether it's a bite guard for TMJ, whether it's some veneers, implant, the list goes on, and I can delve into those further as we keep talking.
Yes, exactly. That's great. And yes, I live with that adage, because if you're clear aligning, but what was your day? Did you bring clear aligners in day one after dental school, or did you gradually bring it in? And what else do you do? And what do you do? I want to get an idea of the breadth, because I know, but what does the listeners want? I want to know the breadth of your armamentarium chairside.
Yeah. First thing with my office is Cleveland Smile Center is the name of my practice. Biggest thing that we market is all in-house, under one roof, one-stop shop. So whether they need an implant, a root canal, aligners, even straight wire ortho, I do as well. Taking out third molars, I do Botox, makes it add to the procedures that we have available, and patients are so appreciative. So that, follows in line with that super GP conversation. I even have taken a big liking to doing full arch all on implant cases and love what that's getting into. And we could talk about some of those things for days, but I love the ortho aspect of it, and have created, not a niche, but a whole section of my practice where I've got a whole column of ortho every day in addition to everything else.
It's unbelievable. That's really unbelievable. How did you hear of OrthoBrain? I mentioned that to some of my docs. We all know the big names, but nobody really heard of OrthoBrain. Now they're starting to see. But how did you hear of it? Is it because you're a Cleveland native, or?
A little bit is proximity. They're they're in a different suburb of Cleveland, but a half hour from where I am. And then also a couple of family ties and mutual friends that I happen to know of, Dr. Dan Gurman, who founded OrthoBrain. So along with those couple factors, it led me to being an early adopter, where I got to get in touch with these guys and really, adopt it early on when they started the company. So that's kind of saying so too.
The factor that made you feel the point when you said, oh, holy cow, this is just going to be unbelievable. Was it a month? Was it numbers? Did you hit a plateau? What was the beginning that somebody could sit out there? So many people want it. You know what I mean? No, and I'm talking from the doctor's side. So many people, where they're early on and they're a little nervous, they're not that early adapter. I always talk about jumping off the cliff in the Rick's Cafe in Jamaica. Some of us, couple of rums and we're in. Some take about 5 or 6. So, but eventually people get there. What was sort of the it for Dr. Sam Glick and Cleveland Institute of Cosmetics or Smiles?
Yeah, biggest thing for me was the demand. When patients start asking about it, whether they're in the chair for cleaning and hygiene check, or we're doing a filling, and they're like, hey, my teeth have been shifting, I want to straighten. I've got an adult in the chair. There's no reason that I can't put those teeth into the proper position with proper occlusion in my own GP private practice, and don't want to turn them away. They don't want to travel. They don't want to have to drive across town. It's the convenience factor that, you know, I almost felt guilty having to refer them out because at initially when I started out of dental school, orthodontics is this faux pas topic that, we're not necessarily trained on in any way. And certainly not confident in our skills, right? So gaining that confidence, I had started off using a few different aligner companies, many of which, you may have heard: Invisalign, Clear Correcture, Smile. I tried them all and all were okay. I can't really say bad things about them in any way. And I got results eventually that I wanted to get to, but my learning curve was slow. I didn't get the guidance and the hand holding that I needed to gain that confidence to be able to do any case. And like you said, jump off that cliff in Jamaica.
And that's what it's all about. But what about your team? Well, I mean, for me, the way it goes is the team has to talk it up, be there, I call be present, whether you're in the room or not, you got to be present. So what was the curve for you? How did you get the team to buy into it?
Yeah, like any procedure that you do in your office, your team has to be raving fans for you. So the biggest thing was implementing and training the team on how to do ortho so that truly I barely have to lift a finger in many ways. But also, we offered free aligner treatment to all the staff or great discounts, right? So that they can do it on themselves. And I'll tell you, there's no better marketing or selling point, so to speak, to a patient than when your hygienist flips the aligners out of their own mouth and says, look, I've got the buttons on and I'm straightening my teeth now too. So get your staff involved and then they, get the excitement that really, moves things along.
Katie barred the door then. I mean, everyone's talking about it. It's flip. I mean, it really is great. But along those lines, somebody walks in and you can't hide the elephant. I mean, there's a brand name like Coke out there, and people are going to walk in and say, "Oh, I would love Invisalign." Now, do you say there's something more? I mean, we're not going to bash anyone, but I'm saying, is that a hurdle that you just say, I'm the doctor for your particular situation? I think young doctors out there, that's a question I hear asked a lot. When they're coming in for Coke, how do you give them Pepsi? So
That's an interesting thought, and it really hasn't been an obstacle in any way for us because they're for you to treat them. Truly, 99.9% of the patients that I see could care less what type of plastic goes in their mouth. It's the dentist setting up the case with the aligners, right? And in the occasion that they do bring it up, I say, well, you probably use a lot of tissues, but you don't only use Kleenex brand, do you? And they'll go, no. I'm like, it's the same thing.
Excellent. So I think to all the listeners and young doctors, I mean, there's always reasons not to jump in and do something. But I found OrthoBrain, and we're going to get into it in a little bit, but the education that you have, and I want to just pick this guy's brain because he is involved with doing so many cases with OrthoBrain. But how did you say now that you have a column all dedicated to ortho training?
No, really, the way that I have an entire column in my schedule is training my team.
Oh, wow.
Meaning to allow myself to be doing a surgery or an endo or whatever it might be in the next operatory while they're putting on the buttons, they're setting everything up, they're delivering the aligners, or taking the scan, whatever it might be, training the team to essentially automate your aligner treatment for you is the way to be hands off, right? And then the bus can drive itself, so to speak.
We're going to talk about, I mean, I'm amazed by what we get back, the disc and the information and the knowledge that I see that from some simple cases you get. Has OrthoBrain assisted you? I mean, if you must have done, let's say, a lot of cases. And for now, I bet you are so much more confident in going in and treatment planning on difficult level of 758, which is a difficult case for a general dentist. But for someone like you, which had the training or should I say the interaction with these orthodontists, your knowledge base, speak of that, please. I mean, I just want to know, you must look at yourself a lot differently today than a lot of 34-year-olds that are taking impressions. sending them to a lab and getting the clear aligners.
Oh, without a doubt. And, I've been doing this 8 years, but initially I wasn't as confident, not nearly as confident as what I am now. And it took some time, but what OrthoBrain allowed me to do was they handhold you through the case. They teach you, and you can almost treat each case as a little mini CE course, to the point where when you submit a case to OrthoBrain, not only do they give you the setup of how the teeth will move, but they give you a written and video breakdown by an orthodontist.
It's really amazing.
Oh my goodness. By an orthodontist literally talking to you, hey, Dr. Sam, just want to explain, we can refer to these pictures that you have, these x-rays that you have, and to the scans that you submitted, and they literally talk you through every aspect of the case, and even where you might stumble and the challenges you might face along the way, so that you almost have a window into the future of that case and what might come about. And it gives you the confidence not only with each case, but as you grow and learn. I treat it as CE, and I have required. Yeah, go ahead.
That is amazing. I know, because I talk about that with docs of mine and my team, and I say, this is a homegrown, embedded, look at it when you like, CE course. Every one you get, and I saw a bunch of them, where you put the brackets, what's the result? And then you get a little indicator whether this is an extremely difficult case, and maybe you should refer. And that's before you get charged. So my point to practices, whether you're groups or individuals, I just feel like if you're giving this, we search the industry for continuing ed. We pay thousands of dollars for our group to get great continuing. Here's something that while you're getting production, you're getting told, well, if you do it here, when you go into lateral movements, you may. That's knowledge when you do veneers. That's knowledge when you do all-on cases. Do you find that? And the more you do, begets more you do?
Absolutely. And you just exponentially grow what you've learned. And what I was going to say is, my associates that work with me, I have, not forced them, but to required them to do the ortho learning and work with OrthoBrain themselves. And all of these young dentists that work with me are all doing ortho cases themselves, right? Not just simple cases. I mean, they're getting into some tough ones too. So, you don't have to be your owner doctor getting into it. It gives me the confidence as the owner doctor that I don't have to worry and monitor their case, that they're going to do the correct treatment, because they've also got an orthodontist behind them with OrthoBrain. And it, gives me a little bit of comfort and less liability feeling as well.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. No conflict at the workplace there.
No.
Tell them that's what you need. I'm not hearing, oh, I love this, I love that. I think unity is awesome, and education is the utmost. Tell me this. Let's get into the economics a little bit. I mean, let's face it, we love treating our patients. We love giving them great results, but we love building great practices, having great staffs, and treating our family like they should be treated. So how did this change, right? I mean, how did it change your practice when you started increasing and getting these doctors all bought in? From a percentage level or whatever you want to say, was there continuous growth year after year as you guys got better and better? What's safe to say?
Safe to say, that's an understatement, right? Just as it goes towards my own practice with my, not even considering my associates, so to speak, I work seeing patients about 30 hours a week, and I do a lot of dentistry. So I do about 1.5 million in revenue.
Stud.
Wow. Which is very good, and don't want to be braggadocious in any way, but we crank it out.
For the viewers, give us an idea of fees. Are you a PPO private practice, or are you a fee for service? What are you guys?
Mostly, I'd say 75-80% PPO, and 10 to 20% fee for service.
A nice mix. It's a good, strong. People appreciate your work.
So on that amount of time and that amount of revenue, about 250,000 of that is ortho, just of what I'm doing a year. And in a year's time, that's $250,000 that then, I pay myself a percentage of. It's an extra $100,000 in my pocket of, clear aligner ortho. And it's amazing.
Yeah, it is really amazing. I mean, I say this because, middle-aged docs, guys that are getting in their 40s and 50s and even 60s, are looking for a reason. And older, looking for a reason to pop up their revenue. You could go all the time. Dentistry is beautiful. So How hard is it? And how do you feel from a profitability standpoint? That sits. If somebody says to me, what can I do to make my office more profitable? What procedure? Look, I think at this stage for certain docs, it's a little late to start putting in implants. I don't know if I would do that, but clear aligners sounds like a low-hanging fruit and something everybody should be doing. Am I right?
Absolutely, it really is. When you talk about implants, you've got to go take a hands-on course. You got to go spend a lot of money on CE and really make sure you're comfortable because, you're cutting and you're slicing, right? Whereas with ortho, there's less of a barrier to getting in started because, the worst case, you move a tooth a half a millimeter wrong one direction, you can move it back, right? It's not exactly how it works, but you can understand that there's less risk in getting involved in ortho. And then as you do it more and more, you get more and more comfortable. So to the older doctor,
And your staff gets more and more.
oh yeah, and more excited.
Exactly. I think that's great.
To the older doctor that's, hesitant about it, the potential there is exponential because the more you do, the more, you can talk about those other procedures that, like you said, dentistry begets dentistry, and you can add to your revenue of all the other great things that you did.
Yeah, that's what we're going to get into. I mean, we talked about it before. I mean, when you're straightening out anterior crowding and either doing a perio splint or just doing the retainer for them, what a great service it is for them to be able to clean or discolored and chipped teeth that are crowded. And now you can do a 8 to 10 unit veneer case, but instead of prepping them like crowns because you're putting them on the long axis of the ridge, stabilized for life, and then you're doing beautiful cosmetics. And I'd like you to talk about that. I mean, have you seen that in your 7, 8 years? I mean, you sound, and I don't say this, I'm not blowing smoke, you sound, because of the type of dentistry you're doing and the armamentarium that you have, you sound like a wise 34-year-old dentist, and it's great. I think your practice and your patients are very fortunate, and you seem to be bringing the best of the best. So I'm just wondering, have you seen that? The ability to walk in and say, Mary, we got to upright that molar because we don't need to lose it, and we could put an implant right in, as some other doctor would take it out and put a partial.
Yeah. And
Right.
it really separates you from the other doctors out there.
Brief word.
Yeah, it separates you and puts you ahead in the sense that, oh my God, my past dentists wouldn't have even thought to bring that up. I'm so glad you could provide me with that implant or those veneers, right? Because a perfect example is veneers, right? You get a patient in, say it's a middle-aged soccer mom, right? And they're very pretty, but their teeth are just all out of whack. The occlusion's bad. They're stressed because they've got little kids and TMJ issues, right? You put them into correct occlusion, their TMJ issues start to go away. They love you already, right? You move their teeth and all of a sudden they notice all the stained and chipped bonding that they had hidden behind each of the other teeth. And now they come to the front and you're done with ortho and you're making them a TMJ splint, maybe a sleep apnea device, whatever it might be. And then they want to do 8 veneers across the top. And it happens weekly. I mean, talk about adding to your revenue. I mean, it's one of those conversations that even if they're not ready today, hey, let's put your retainers in and, maybe in 26 months, you're ready for those veneers, but they sure want them because now they can see all the potential there and they're in your office.
Lying, because
Yeah, they love your teeth. It's
it's like music to my ears. And I think so many dentists at your stage, I got to tell you, right? This guy, I've never met him in person, but I can't wait. I'm going to be at the summit with him and friend, yeah. But I will say this, and that's no plug. I just think talking to people that understand it, we are what we offer. If we offer fillings, crowns, and occasional scaling and root planning, that's what our practice is going to be. But here, it sounds to me like, how do you prevent from getting 100 new patients a month? You're offering what they need.
Right.
So it's amazing. I also want to interject before I get to the last couple of parts, but I want to interject something. I'm a guy who looks at a lot of practices, and being with Guardian, we bridged a lot of practices in New York and built a great group. I often see the issue of cases that are started and doctors coming in not to the same level of that clear aligner doctor. So you had a doctor that was doing clear aligners, maybe 1 or 2 a day, big time producers. How do you put in somebody that matches that? It's very difficult in certain type of companies. But I was been thinking about it. I think with OrthoBrain, you could literally send a scan and literally pick up the case from there. For that doctor, that might not be at the level we need them to. Eventually they will. But for groups out there, what else would it be if you don't, you don't miss a step because you've got a built-in knowledge base that you don't have to go out and hire.
You've got a built-in orthodontist in your back pocket.
Do you find it that easy? I mean, do you really find it that clear? Do you have any hiccups or things like that? And I want to ask you something else. Any hiccups? And I'm asking you like a practice owner, do you give bonuses to your hygienists if they get a case?
Yes, we do.
And that works well?
It works great. And what we train our team on, the whole team, but especially the hygienist, is, at some point in your appointment, if you see any person that doesn't have perfectly straight teeth, we require them to ask the question, have you ever thought about straightening your teeth? And then they're taught and trained to stop and shut up and be quiet in the best way possible and let the patient let you know what their thoughts are. Because if you...
Nugget. That was a nugget.
I'll go back. Have you ever thought about straightening your teeth?
Beautiful. Love it.
Why are we so hesitant to ask that question? It's not hard, right? And that patient will say, I don't really have any desire. Okay, move on with your day. But that, let's say, 3 or 4 out of 10, maybe even more than that, then you spark up a conversation that can lead to an extra $5,000 to $6,000 in your day that day. All I got to do is scan their mouth, take 9 photographs, and send a panoramic x-ray. Boom, I just added production right there.
And I want to say out there, crowded anterior, bleeding upon probing, periodontal disease, I come from a background of heavy perio, so I'm only going to say this from a standpoint, if the patient is asking, why do my gums bleed? They're crowded. If we do clear aligners and we straighten them and you can now floss them without impingement, you're going to save those teeth for the rest of your life. And I always believe it's the tools we have in our mouth, in our pocket, the communication tools, explaining them why we're asked, no, I don't care. Well, you would care as we get older. A bone, when they recede and they're crowded, they're going to recede quicker because you can't get to it. If you clear align, move their teeth, that's a great. What about in closing? Because first of all, I know you're friends of Dr. Dan Gurman because you have all those books in the background, which I'm sure he probably read about 85% of them last week. Dan's an insatiable reader. But if you were talking to a young person that you met at a conference, here you are, big practice, stay the course, man. It's great. You're going to have a beautiful career. I love it. But it's really exciting. And I mean that. I have a son coming out of dental school in a year or maybe 2. He's going to do a residency. I'm excited the way dentistry is. And here's somebody who gravitated to it. If you were talking to a young dentist and they were interested in getting involved in this, what would you advise them and why?
I'd advise them, don't be afraid. Orthodontics is easy and it's fun and it's lucrative. Those 3 factors, there's no reason not to get involved and try a few cases, to which point I can almost guarantee after you do a few cases, you'll want to do more. It's addicting. It's exciting. Patients want the treatment. There's no pain involved. You don't have to numb them. They're excited about it. Whereas they come in for a filling, a crown, it's the last place they want to be. So ortho is easy in the sense that, they're really excited to be there. There's not a lot of stress involved. And, what could we ask for more is, a non-stressful dental.
I think doctors should ask for being as passionate as you are. I think it's amazing. But I got to ask you, being so involved with OrthoBrain, today I was introduced to something by a friend of yours who said hello to you. Good friend, and you know him, right, Gino? But he showed us, and, the person with him showed us the sort of like the bracket delivery system. The tray bracket delivery system. Now, I have a couple of docs that do whatever brand it is, but they place brackets on teeth to move them quickly. Have you done any of those cases? Because they look amazing.
Absolutely. Full disclosure, I do about 30% of my ortho cases are straight wire as well. I've learned a lot of my skills and confidence from OrthoBrain doing straight wire cases with them. And what you're referring to are indirect bonding trays.
Yeah.
Basically, when you want to do a straight wire case with brackets, and you can send your photos just like you would submit an aligner case. but rather they do a setup for you with the brackets on, and a indirect bonding tray is almost like a template for putting on attachments, where your brackets are actually housed within a piece of plastic, acrylic, and there's a model of their mouth, and you remove the plat.
Find it and scan it.
You bond.
Find it, hit it with the light, and it stays. We used to do that. It was once I worked on it with Denmat when they were involved with Snap-on Smile. They came out with a laminate delivery system where it was a tray with like octopi leads, and you put it in the mouth, snapped it in, and they delivered all the veneers in one shot. It was interesting. I think this may have more use. I was always had trouble with the contacts during that, but I'm not knocking anything. I'm just saying I thought it was pretty amazing. But I want listeners, listen, you should be very, very proud. And as a guy who works with so many different dentists clinically and every day, I think, when you meet somebody like you and you got as many years left on your career to just build greatness and keep growing those offices, the rainbow at the end is magical. And I think it's incredible. But if people have questions, any way they can just ask a question, or should I refer them to me and they call the Cleveland facial? I mean, this is just curious. Are you open to anything like that? Is there somewhere you're not going to get bombarded, but you may get a couple of young people asking you which way I go. And I think that's a credit. Imitation is always a form of flattery. So tell me.
I would love anybody to reach out to me. My email address, you can hit me up directly, Dr. Sam, DRSAM, at clevelandsmilecenter.com.
Or it's good. That's good. You're a good-looking guy. I don't want anybody stalking you. You got a family, keep it lean. But if you want to find Dr. Glick, Sam Glick, I grew up with a family in New York named Glick. They were wonderful people when I heard you were coming on, but they were in the jewelry business, not the dental business. But really wonderful people. So I knew you'd be a great guy, and you are. And I'm so happy to hear this. And there's so many aspects to talk to you about, because you do run a big business with 4 offices. You do implants, and yet you're obviously looking for a clear aligner and something that can not only help support your practice, give great results to your patients, but also educate you along the lines. And as you do more and you turn, God willing, 44 and 54, you're going to be a guru. And I think everyone out there should know that you don't become some sort of a KOL by starting when you're 25 years in. This is somebody who obviously sees the future, gravitated to something that is very little resistance, yet tremendous amount of knowledge. I got to know OrthoBrain's product. That's why I'm talking to somebody about it. I think it's fantastic. And they're only coming out with more and more things. And they have a great support team. They really, right? Wouldn't you say their team is very nice and really focused on patient and doctor care?
Salt of the earth people that just genuinely care about you and want the best for you and your practice, your patients. I literally can't say more about all the reps and the ownership.
Yeah, it's very nice. And again, every case I find is a built-in CE. But Doc, I know you're busy. I really thank you so much for your time. We're going to talk and see each other in about a month, I hope, or a little more. But that's great. So everybody, please, we're going to post it, but look his email up. It's really interesting. Great to hear a young doc in Cleveland kicking butt and just educating people and growing his practice. It's phenomenal.
Mark, thank you so much for having me on.
That's it. I hope to bump into you soon. All the best. Take care. Wow. What an amazing discussion. Here's a doc that early on understands the beauty of quality dentistry, knowledge-based dentistry, and profitable dentistry. He's doing orthodontics not just to do it. He's doing it because he's passionate about it. Yes, there's a revenue stream, and his patients love it because they don't have to go anywhere. And every case, he says, he learns something. It's amazing. But what's really amazing is for my Hamza to see young docs gravitate to that, to understand the super generalist. He's practicing and owning and producing $1.5 million a year. It's a big cog in the wheel. He's got a great opportunity to build a phenomenal business. And we know there's a great rainbow at the end of that. I think this has been an amazing discussion. He's so enlightening. So I want to thank him. And I want to thank OrthoBrain for giving me Sam Glick. They recommended, and boy, he did not disappoint. Really great knowledge, really that situation, of just remembering how many times he said what I always talk about, and that's dentistry beget dentistry. That's what we do when we do more procedures. So I want to say thank you. We'll see you at the next time. Please follow me. It's the summer. It's definitely still exciting. We're having some great opportunities in the next few months. We're being at some summits and some lectures. I'll be on a boat, a lot of stuff, but we'll get into it. So follow me, like me, say hello to me. But we got some great stuff coming. So thank you, and I'll see you next time on Dentistry Beyond the Numbers.